I think Alamance County Commissioner Carter is preparing you who live in Alamance County for a property tax increase in 2025, and I will show you why. Well, welcome back to Alamance County Talks Politics. In this video, we're going to be looking at a statement that is made by Alamance County Commissioner Steve Carter. I think he may be prophetically preparing you for a possible property tax increase in the year of 2025. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the video that I'm talking about, referring to, and I'm going to break it down. Once he finishes speaking, I may play it back again and take it item by item. Then I want to show you how government can become more efficient. Let's enter the meeting. This meeting took place on November the 18th of 2024, just a couple of days ago. So let's enter the meeting and listen to what Commissioner Carter says.
There's so many things that if you look at what we do in the budget process, I mean, I know nobody likes the idea of seeing taxes go up. That's not what we start out trying to do with a budget. If anything, we start out trying to keep the taxes down. I think that's a goal of everybody on this board, and I think I know some of the potential and new members coming on the board. I know Ed for a fact that's a goal that he has. The things we need, you can't always add, and you can't always say, okay, there's $1 million for cameras. Where are we going to take $1 million out of something else? We take a look at a zero-based budget every year. We look at every need in every department and make a determination about whether that department needs that particular line item in their budget going forward.
All right, so there we have Steve Carter talking about how they are working very hard to meet the needs of the government, but yet also keep rates down now, property tax rates down. Now, let me mention something here. Steve Carter was a member, and he, by his own words, I'm not thinking it was the same meeting. He was actually, I think, the leader of the Tea Party movement, which was a strong movement for lower taxes, small government. But I'm afraid over the time since he was elected, I think in 2018, he got reelected in 2022, and he'll be coming up again at the next election, I believe 2026. Seems like he's gotten a little bit more confident. In the earlier years, I think he was keeping the tax rate where it was. He didn't lower. I think they lowered it one time by 1 penny. But as of 23, 24, you remember they went up on your taxes. They brag about us having the lowest tax rate, or one of the 18th lowest, I believe is what he said. Listen, the reason it's 46 now, it was 43.432. The reason it's where it is because your property value went up 70, 80% in many cases. So they had to lower that number. And now they come out, the number was at like 66 or 65%. But when they lowered it, now they're out bragging about how low this tax rate is. And we got one of the lowest in North Carolina, when in reality, it is low. But the reason it's low is because your property values went up so high. Ours went up high. And that's the reason they lowered it. So in reality, our tax rate is not low. It is not. And he needs to really quit saying that, as well as others. They can say it and it looks good and sounds good on paper, but you've got to look at the reality of our property values going up, them creating or doing this reevaluation at a time when property values were just overpriced. I mean, it was just overpriced. And we see that now as it's cooling down a little bit. But anyway, let's break down what Steve Carter has said. Like I said, he was part of the Tea Party, and that's one of the reasons I think people were for him. We think he was for smaller government. We think he's for lower property tax rates. But since he's got in there, I'm telling you, he's voted for the last two. He voted for the one that raised they lowered it down to what they called revenue neutral to 0.43. And then he agreed to a 0.432. He voted for that, which I know that was a school system that came back and asked for that money. He voted to give them that money. But also in this past year, 2024, they increased your taxes. I want to say it was like, according to one source, 3.66, I believe, cents is what it went up from, like 0.432 to 0.466 or something like that. So he does increase your tax. He voted to increase your taxes. But my concern is, it sounds like he's prophetically speaking here preparing you for Alamance County just busting at the seams. We're just growing by leaps and bounds. Yes, but Commissioner Carter, let's get into what he states about when he was elected, he came across as this government hawk. This guy who really looks at the tax dollars and really evaluates, and that's what he's going to say here. But we're going to break this down. So let's go to the meeting and listen to it once again.
There's so many things that if you look at what we do in the budget process, I mean, I know nobody likes the idea of seeing taxes go up. That's not what we start out trying to do with a budget.
Okay, so he says, nobody wants taxes to go up. And he says that's not the first thing that they look at. So he wants to he comes across as, hey, we want to keep taxes low. Listen, continue. Listen.
If anything, we start out trying to keep the taxes down. I think that's a goal of everybody on this board, and I know some of the potential and new members coming on the board. I know Ed for a fact that's a goal that he has.
No, Ed doesn't have a goal of keeping it low. Ed's campaign slogan was cut property taxes. His goal was not to keep it at 0.4, whatever it is now. His goal is to cut. That's what Ed ran on. That was Ed's platform. So I expect Ed to get in there and really identify areas of waste in county government. That's what I expect him to do, and not to maintain where it was. That's not cutting property taxes. And Steve, I would expect you to do the same thing, being over the Tea Party as you were. And I'm going to show y'all something in just a moment. So just hang in there.
The things we need, you can't always add, and you can't always say, okay, there's $1 million for cameras. Where are we going to take $1 million out of something else?
All right, now there's his prophecy. There's his preparation for you to be ready for the 2025 tax increase. Now, if he sees this video, he might vote against it. I don't know. It's probably unlikely. I think Steve is going to vote if there is a tax increase, whatever it may be. He's already saying here, it's not like if we get body cameras and they don't cost $1 million. I mean, I was reading that there was maybe $500,000, something like that. That's just not. I don't think that's true. And unless you have so many officers. I was looking at another county larger than ours, and it didn't cost that much. But regardless, he's talking about taking money. He's saying getting it from this one and bringing it over here. It's not that easy. In other words, he's saying we can't do that. The only other way, if we're going to pay for it, is guess what? We're going to have to raise your taxes. That's what he's saying. That's what he's preparing you for. He's saying we can't cut government. You can't reduce costs in Alamance County government. You can't do it. It's not there. Well, I'll get into the government efficiency in just a moment.
We take a look at a zero-based budget every year.
Gosh, I got to stop him again there. Steve, you basically what happens is the county departments submit something to the county manager. They submit a number to the county manager, and then you take that number based on what Heidi instructs y'all or gives you, and then you do that. I do not think for a second that you are in these departments looking and saying, okay, are we, and I'll show you how to do this in just a moment. You're not down there looking at all these numbers. You're not in the nooks and crannies trying to really find out where we can cut, where we can be more efficient. You're not doing that. You're depending on your county manager, and rightly so you should, but you should also represent the taxpayers and say, hey, check behind her. You need to trust, but verify what they tell you. So let's continue on.
We look at every need in every department and make a determination about whether that department needs that particular line item in their budget going forward.
And that is information that he gets from Heidi. I mean, I know they get a budget, but I doubt very seriously, Steve Carter, you or any of those county commissioners go in and really dig deep to try to find that. And I'll show you why I don't believe that, and just why I don't believe you do that in just a moment. But notice, I believe he's preparing us for a 2025 tax increase. Now, let's go to one more thing. I'm going to show you two things here. I'm going to show you one thing, but I'm going to talk to you about this. The first thing I want to talk to you about is, we're talking about government efficiency. Here we have the Alamance County Tax Department. And I want you to notice on here that I have before you, it says payment may be made in person, by mail, by phone, online, or placed in our drop box located on front of the county office building. So notice the multiple ways that they say that you can pay your tax bill, which is great. I love the options. But this is the key. how did people used to pay their bills? Well, they used to pay it either in person or they would probably mail it in a check, mail it a check to the county. So they would either walk in or they would mail it. Now the phone has become a primary way of paying your bill online. So now you have a portion of people who have become enough phone savvy to where they don't go and pay their bill in person at the tax department. They don't even mail it. They don't even want to use the stamp that costs maybe $1. Now, I'm not sure what a stamp is, but they don't want to. They don't want to pay $1 for a stamp to mail it. So what do? They use the phone, and in many of our phones, most of these pay centers, you have an automated pay center where you don't ever talk to anyone. You just follow the prompts. You listen to the automation, and you pay your bill. Well, look at the online. Now there are people who are utilizing the online opportunity, and they use their phones as well to do that. They use a computer, phone, whatever. What I'm saying here is this is a more efficient way. You're offering more ways for people to pay their bills, and you're wanting yourself to be more customer friendly, which you are. But this is the key. When you offered pay by phone or pay by online, I am absolutely sure if you look at the numbers, that caused your number of people who walked in and paid their bill in person. I'll guarantee you that dropped that number because you've offered the phone and online option, and many more people are probably taking those options. Now you say, Keith, you don't know that, and somebody might come out and say he don't know. He's not looked at the numbers. I have not, and they're right. I have not. I am assuming. But my assumption, if I had the authority and the power, would be to go in there and to get these department heads to give me these numbers so that I could look at this and see. I mean, do we just hire the same 5 people to keep doing the same thing when the numbers or the amount of work doesn't dictate that? Absolutely not. Nobody in their right mind does that. You don't do that. You reduce your workforce, or you move them to another department, or you give them more responsibilities or things of that nature. But government, by its own definition, it does not shrink. It continues to grow and grow, and it becomes a source of just continual taxation upon the people. And we need people who are going to be in there and looking at this tax situation and reducing the government waste or inefficiency that takes place. Now, I want to show you one more thing or tell you one more thing. Most of you know Donald Trump was well, let me start here. If you've lived in Alamance County for a long period, one of the most dreadful times during the year was when that the tag for your car came in the mail. When you had to go down there to the I-85 Plaza at the NCDMV, and you knew when you went down there, you were going to have to wait for an hour at least. Every time I would go down there, I mean, before, now I'm talking years ago, maybe 7 years ago, when you'd go down there, that place was packed. It was just so inefficient. You were like, oh my goodness, am I ever going to get out of here? You know the feeling. You felt the drudge of doing that. But now if you look at the NCDMV, you go to the I-85 Plaza, went there in the last several years, of course, and you know what? I get in there and get out fairly quickly. Do you know why I get in and get out pretty quickly? Same reason you probably do, is because it was privatized. It was privatized. And now these people have made it more efficient. So now the wait lines are no longer the issue. Now customer service is the key. They want you to be satisfied because they don't want you complaining to your state representative or whoever. So they're going to put things in place, measures in place to ensure that they are an efficient entity. And doggone it, I'm telling you, it ain't a drudge to go there anymore. It's not a drudge to go there anymore. You get in and you get out pretty quickly. Now, if you have a title that you're transferring, I mean, it might take a little longer, but it is nowhere near the time-consuming process that it used to be. Let me mention one more thing. Many of you may know, as I mentioned, Donald Trump was appointed president or nominated president of the United States, and now he has appointed what they call DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. Why would you need to do that? Isn't government efficient already? Absolutely not. And they know it. So he's taken Elon Musk and he's taken Vivek Ramaswamy, and he's putting them together to look and evaluate at the government waste that is in our federal government. And I think Elon had made the statement that he thinks he could cut at least I think he said $2 trillion. out of the debt. I mean, out of the cost of the government. Now, you telling me that the federal government doesn't have waste? You got two of the best business minds looking at this, and they're evaluating it, and they're going to actually reduce the cost to the taxpayers. Now, let me say this. They've also appointed Marjorie Taylor Greene over, I think James Comer appointed her over the DOGE committee, the Department of Government Efficiency. He has appointed her over that so that she works hand in hand with Elon, with Vivek, and they make they go and they look at it, and they actually make determinations of where cuts can be made. That's what I mean, Steve. When you get in there and you look at the budget, and you're in there like that, that's when I'll know you're looking at zero-based budgeting. That's when I know that you're looking at that. You're going behind the department manager, and you're looking and you're measuring. You know, I remember reading something that says if you don't measure it, you're not going to improve it. It will not get improved. You've got to measure, and there is no measuring tools in government. There are none. I mean, there is no measurement. And I'm just simply saying, you know, I think he's preparing us for a tax increase, and he's trying to say, listen, our government is efficient. And I'm telling you, there is no government entity that is that efficient, and you know it. So let me encourage you to hold these commissioners accountable. Let me say this in closing. I've talked to several people, and you may have to, I'm talking probably over 2 dozen, whose house payments have increased over $100 and some dollars just over the last two tax increases that they got. Their taxes have went up. Therefore, they're paying more in escrow. They're paying more for their tax for their home, their house payment every month. I mean, $100 a month, $150, $200 a month for an individual when they're already struggling to pay their bills. That's a big deal. It's a big deal. So let me encourage you. We need to stay on top of this, on top of these commissioners, and don't let them ramrod us or tell us something. Hold them accountable. Ask them questions. And if you enjoyed this video, let me encourage you to hit the like, subscribe button. Until next time, this is Alamance County Talks Politics. Take care.